Hi, Megan.
Hi, Sarah. How are you?
I'm doing great. We're actually getting ready to go on vacation, and I am just obsessed and loving shopping on Revolve. Do you shop on Revolve?
I recently started shopping on Revolve because of you. I love that site. I'm obsessed
Ah,
also.
I mean, I've been shopping on it for quite a few years now, but I had this epiphany yesterday that it literally is the perfect business model for a clothing company. Their customer service is phenomenal. They carry
Phenomenal. Yes.
phenomenal.
I love it.
Yes.
I love it. Yeah.
They carry low end and high end, which that fits me. Like, I want to buy a $25 tank top, but I also want to buy a $600 blazer.
Right.
And you can buy all those things. They literally ship it to you in 2 days.
I know.
And it
And
has,
in good condition. Like they're
oh,
not
great.
shoving stuff into a box and sending it.
No.
They send it in a beautifully wrapped box. Yeah, keep going.
Yes.
I
Yes.
could
No.
go on also.
I love it. I love it.
I
No.
love it.
I know. And I love that it comes with the prepaid printed label to return.
Yes.
I find myself like not shopping on sites that I haven't returned with them before because it just seems like a hassle and then I don't end up doing it. And you get 60 days to return on Revolve. They give you everything you need. It's so easy. So we're getting ready to go on a beach vacation. I bought like $2,500 worth of things. I tried them all on in the comfort of my own home. I picked a third of them that I'm
Mm-hmm.
keeping and taking
Mm-hmm.
on vacation. And I packaged up the rest. I dropped it back off. And literally a day later, I don't even know how this is possible. A day later, I see I got a refund for all of those. I'm like, this is incredible. And recently, not this past order, but an order before, I got my refund and it was missing one of the items. And I was like, oh no, so
Oh.
annoying. I have to call about this. It was literally, I called, they answered right away. No robots, no, not being able to get to someone. A human being answered. They were so apologetic. They credited me back. And then they gave me a $25 credit on top of that because of the hassle.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like,
I mean,
this company has figured it out.
they have. I know. As you're talking right now, I recently learned this lesson again. I feel like I learned this over and over. I shopped directly from one of our favorite brands. I won't say which one because
Oh,
I don't want to like disparage, but wow, I
yes.
needed to make a return because it didn't fit quite right. It was way too big, and there was no one working there to answer phones. I got the runaround. I sent multiple email messages with like either no response or, um, a sort of like they didn't understand what I was saying response, but I only had 7 days to return the item. So I was running out of time. And eventually I was like, look, I'm a podcaster. I want you to know that like this I'm having a very bad experience here, and immediately they gave me a return.
Oh, they did. I mean, 7 days return period is ridiculous. And
I know.
I'm like, who can do anything in 7 days?
No, I know. And so I was feeling the pressure, but Revolve sells everything that this clothing brand makes. So I'm like, of
Yes,
course, from now on, I'm going to be buying this from Revolve because I can just return it to them. And I can do it in this
exactly.
amazing, easy way.
Yes.
Um,
And you have 60 days. I
yes.
know. I'm so disappointed in that brand because I love their products as well. And I was so disappointed to hear your
Oh, you know.
story.
Okay, you remember.
I know
Okay.
which one it is. I know.
Yeah,
If
I
you
know.
want to know, DM us and
Yeah.
we'll let you know who it
Yeah,
was.
don't shop directly from them.
I
Go
know.
through Revolve. Yeah, so I agree. And in this day and age, when I feel like a lot of customer service is falling away, like I mean, there's
Yes.
multiple brands now that I used to shop from that they're just shoving their clothes into a bag, and I get them,
Yes.
and the boob cups are wrinkled. The garment is completely wrinkled, and it's like, well, I have to
Yes.
steam this now if I'm even gonna wear it. Like,
Or I've even had purchasing something from another site and it comes and it's clearly been worn. It smells like someone's perfume. Like
oh, yeah,
gross,
that's a
right?
bummer. That's a big bummer.
But Revolve has figured it out and I feel like there's no reason for me to shop anywhere else now. After this last experience, I'm like, I am done. This is so easy and so convenient. And they literally have everything that I want. I've got from like workout clothes to fancy ball gowns. Those ball gowns that we wore in our photo
I
shoot for the
know.
podcast.
I
Those are from
know.
Revolve.
Yeah, those were beautiful
Yeah.
dresses. I know. I know. I love
But
I love that I love everything about Revolve. And I do
I know.
agree. Like the price differentials that they offer, it's great.
I know.
Um
Oh, and we're not affiliated. This is just like
I know.
pure passion. Although Revolve,
Pure
if you want to be
passion.
affiliated, connect with
Just let
us.
us know. I know, yeah.
Well, what's going
Um
on with you, Megan? How's your week?
Oh, I've had a pretty chill week, but it is getting hot outside finally in California. And I have to just give a plug real quick to the Curie deodorant. Now,
Hmm.
I sort of, I'm not one for gimmicks. But I will try things like this just to see if it works. I have never found an actual natural deodorant that has worked before, and I have to say that the Curie deodorant stick in particular has some lasting power and it smells good.
What
I'm
scent did
blown
you get?
away. I got the new coconut scent.
Oh, yep, I have that
Um,
one too. I love
I
it.
love it too. And I did get the spray. Now, I will say, she said the spray works for her, just a couple spritzes. That's not enough for me. So I noticed after a couple hours, I was like, I think I might need that stick. And when I use that stick, it's all day. It's great. It's
Oh,
fantastic. And I'm
I
just using
know.
the spray like on my clothes so that I smell good throughout the
Mm-hmm.
day. So
Yeah,
yeah,
phthalate free, smelling
phthalate
good.
free,
I
aluminum
know. I
free.
love it. Having
Yeah.
her on the episode, if you haven't listened, we had Sarah Moret, the founder of Curie, on our episode. You can search for it back in our previous episodes. But having her on reignited my use of her products because I'm always trying so many different things.
Yeah.
And it's stuck. I mean, it is the best natural and clean deodorant. Let me
Agreed.
specify the
Yeah.
best clean deodorant that I have ever tried.
I
It's
know.
amazing. She has figured something really great out.
Yes, yes, I love it. So I just wanted to say that real quick because I'm about to go to Florida, and
That'll be the real
I
test.
know it's the real test, but I am pleasantly surprised because I've tried so many of them like this. So I just wanted to give an update that it's got the stamp of approval for me.
Oh,
I love it.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, with that, welcome everyone to Platinum Perspective, the podcast about beauty, travel, luxury, and more. I'm your co host, Sarah.
And I'm Megan. Sarah and I are best friends who put the work in to get the most out of life so you don't have to. Today we have a very special guest named Marissa Vallotton. And I first became introduced to Marissa back in 2021 when we were in the midst of a pandemic and I needed some Disney hope on my future. So I really started researching everything about Disney Vacation Club and starting to understand and unravel all the ins and outs of this amazing program. And Marissa was the person I was talking to the most that helped me get a bunch of contracts both at the Grand Californian and in the Grand Floridian. She is Vice President of Marketing and Sales for DVC Resale Market. Welcome, Marissa. We're
Wow,
so glad
thank
to have
you.
you.
Thank you for having me.
Before we dive into all of that, though, we have a segment we like to call Rapid Fire,
All
where
right.
I ask you 3 questions and you give us your quick responses to those questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Question 1. Should Sarah and I take a Disney cruise?
Yes, absolutely. It's the best Disney vacation.
I'll preface that with we've never taken a cruise before.
No.
Ever.
You still
Yeah.
you have to. That makes it even more reason you need to do it.
Oh,
Okay.
I want to hear the sales pitch. Okay, we'll get to that. Question 2. What is your favorite DVC property of all time?
I wish this one was so much easier. You'd think it would be. I'm gonna go with Vero Beach, and it's kind of like an odd one, but we're in Orlando, and so we're at the park so much. So Vero Beach is just like a really great getaway and vacation for our family.
Oh, I'm so surprised at that. Wow.
Where is that located?
So it's about an hour from Walt Disney World. It's on the east coast of Florida. So it's kind of like as you're going out to the cruise ships, it's just a little bit further from there. And so it's
Oh.
kind of in the middle of nowhere, but Disney was able to get some beachfront property. And it's everything you love about a cruise, like going to the private island, having like the pool, the activities, but it's all right there. And for us, it's an hour drive away. So my son gets to go what he calls Mickey's Beach House and hang out there and get all
Oh,
the Disney stuff without like all the hustle and bustle of the parks.
Oh,
oh, cool.
that does sound nice. Okay, question 3. Are you also into clean beauty?
I am, yes. It my
Yay.
when my son was born, I think that's probably the journey for a lot of people when you start to have kids. And I had like pregnancy nose really, really bad. And all of a sudden, like every scent would drive me crazy. And so, like at that point, I did away with like all chemicals in the home, all perfumes, started to look for clean like cosmetics. And that just kind of like it spiraled since there. So it hasn't stopped.
Ooh, I love that. Well, my background is in beauty. So, Megan is educating me on Disney. But before we jump into Disney, can I ask you a little bit more on that?
Yeah.
You have a kids' clean beauty line,
We
is that
do.
correct?
Yeah. So basically, when my son was born, he had crazy hair. My husband and I both have super thick hair. And so right away we were like, okay, we need something to help this hair do a little bit. And for babies, their scalp is so like tiny and their skin on their scalp is so thin. And that's such a huge organ that absorbs so much of
Mhm.
like the sulfates and the parabens. And so we took a deep, deep dive. And the deeper we went, like the worse it got. And so we were like, there's really nothing for little kids that can kind of like lightly tame their hair. We were putting like lotion on his head because we were like, okay, at least that'll kind of like tame the hair down a little bit. But there was nothing that was like gonna keep that cute like baby look, but also have all those good, clean like ingredients inside. And so that was kind of the aha moment to say, okay, if there's nothing out there and we need this, then there's probably
Mm,
a need in the market. And so it took us about two
yes.
years to find like a chemist that held our same values and then formulate and then you do like the patch testing and the dermatologist testing and so it took us 2 years to really get started and then March of 2020 everything was set and we're like awesome let's go and now is
Perfect
probably
Oh.
like the
timing.
worst time to launch a business. But I think what really worked in our favor is I think out of the pandemic, the clean beauty industry really kind of like
Mhm.
took off. And I think the more and more people were just starting to be more aware of like whether that was being home, they were just more aware of like what they were surrounding themselves with. And so the good news
Yes.
for us is it really was actually perfect timing where we saw it wasn't just something that we knew we had a need for, so many other families had that. So we have like a kids hair paste, which is kind of like a pomade, but it's for little kids so that they can put it on their hair. It holds whether that's going to be like flyaways in a ponytail for a little girl or a little boy, almost like a gel like, but it holds kind of still that kid like look in them. So they're not like crunchy and
Yeah.
stuffy where you're not like, okay,
Oh.
to your baby, you're not putting hairspray on where they have kind of that 10-year-old look. And so that was our first product. And now we have a detangler and we have an all purpose balm, which is like something every mom should have in their purse because it's like scratches and bruises and it helps with sunburns and mosquito bites. And so we've just kept kind of like
Oh,
adding as we go along and find those needs.
I love that. You're speaking to my mom heart and my beauty industry heart. What's the name of your company?
It's Lane and Co Shop. And so our website is
Okay.
laneandcoshop.com and you can also find us on Amazon or on Walmart.
Okay,
Oh,
perfect. And for
wow.
all of our listeners, we're gonna link we'll link that on our Instagram and I'm gonna order that detangler because my girls have long hair and
Oh,
we need
perfect.
as much help with
I
detangling as we
use
can
it for
get.
myself, so it's good for the whole
Oh,
family.
that's great.
Oh, that's great. Yes, that's amazing. Okay. Well, now that we've talked about beauty, let's get into all the Disney fun. I had no idea about all of your background when I was working with you, just buying DVC contracts. It's astounding. Can you tell us more about how you got started with Disney and what kind of performances were you in, and all of that? Disney Vacation
Yeah.
College or Disney College? I'd love to
Yep.
hear more about that.
The whole
Yeah.
array. It's funny, Megan, because I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember meeting you for the first time, and you're from Florida, and then
Yes.
you live in California. And my
Yeah.
story is the complete opposite. I'm from California and I live in Florida. And so I've always remembered you
Oh.
because I was like, she's kind of like the total opposite of me. We just like switch paths in life.
Where are you from in
I'm
California?
from Northern California, so I'm from Redding, like almost the border of
Oh, okay.
Oregon. But
I grew up in Sacramento.
oh, okay. Small world. My sister lives there.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Oh, nice.
that's so
So
cool.
that's what really kind of kicked off my Disney journey was living in California. I went to school in Southern California. I went to Azusa Pacific, which is kind of
Oh,
near
nice.
Pasadena area. And so my last year in school, I was getting a degree in marketing and they said we had to have some sort of internship. And so, you go through the college fairs and you're like, okay, what do I do? Where do I go? And then they had the Disney College Program booth. And so for a lot of like the East Coasters, they know about Disney College Program because it's been at Disney World for a very long time. But the Disneyland College Program, it's not as well known. And I was probably one of the first couple years of classes that they ever like launched it to. And so I was like, oh, this is perfect. So I'll go out there and do that. My background kind of before I went to school, I danced and performed my whole life. And so when I went to college, it was deciding, do I go to school for like theater arts and performing and dance, or do I get like a job in business and marketing? And so I
Mm.
went the marketing route, but I always had that love for performing. And so doing the college program, while you're doing kind of like the internship side, they want you to have like a regular job in like the parks. And so it was kind of that perfect opportunity to take advantage of kind of both of my passions. And so I was able to take my dance skills and audition, and I got parts in a lot of the shows. And the cool thing is, kind of once you start in entertainment, it opens the doors for just so many other things. And so at the time, they were launching Tinkerbell as a meet and greet character. She had never existed before as meet and greet. And so I got to work with the creative department and be like a Tinkerbell model. And so I would go, they had like this special secret building
Oh.
in Fullerton. And I used to go out there and like they have this like secret costume design team. And so got to be part of that. And then as I got to know that team in special events, they did the Christmas Day parade, which they do every year. And they usually
Oh.
have like Ryan Seacrest or Kelly Clarkson host it. And so they were like, hey, we need an extra role for the Christmas parade. I was like 3 months in to my time there. And I was like, sure, let me go on, whatever you
Oh,
want.
That's
what a dream.
amazing.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it was super exciting. And then from there, it opened the door to Disney Cruise Line. So I went out to perform on Disney cruise ships. I told my poor mom, I was like, I'll be gone for 6 months. And then 10 years later, I was still working on the cruise ships. So I broke her heart because she's like, are you ever coming home again for Christmas? So they came on the
Oh,
cruises with me instead. But I mean, to answer your question in a little bit more detail on cruises, it's an
yeah.
amazing way to do a Disney vacation just because the shows, the character interactions, it's so different from the parks where kind of everything is a little bit more like planned, where you have to have
Yeah.
your day planned out in the lines. There, everything is just much more kind of organic in like Mickey Mouse might just walk by, or you're working out in the gym and Chip and Dale are running on the treadmill next to you. So it's really kind of that
Oh,
immersive vacation
Oh.
cute.
experience on the ships.
Oh, so cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have friends that have done the Disney cruises before, and they rave about them. And I'm like, well, I've never done a cruise before, but maybe that's the right place to start.
Yeah, and so our team, we are now officially like the world of DVC, and we just kind of keep like snowballing. And so with that, we also have a travel agent, Be Our Guest Vacations. And so if you're ever cruising, those ladies are the experts, and there's all kind of perks and benefits with them for booking. So really great way to kind of start out on your first cruise. They'll take care of everything for you.
Yeah, I was
Oh,
listening to
that's
a
good to know.
Yeah, I was listening to a different podcast and they were going into all those perks. And I've never been one to like use a lot of travel agents for planning, but hearing everything that they do for you and making sure you always get the lowest price. And even if the price changes, they'll fix
Yeah.
that for you. They give you like a voucher for food and like all kinds of stuff. So it does sound like a really great way to save money and free to
Yeah,
use.
that's the thing. It's a no-brainer. It's free. They do all the work for you. You just show up.
Yeah, yeah,
That sounds great.
yeah.
Okay, so there's been a lot of mention of DVC, and I have to admit that prior to about 10 months ago, I had never heard of DVC before. I had only been to Disneyland a couple times as a kid. I hadn't taken my family yet. And then I met Megan, and she educated me a bit on DVC. She invited my family on our first Disneyland vacation as a family with our kids. It was incredible. But she's talking a lot about DVC. Can you explain it a little bit? I know she's trying to sell me on it, but it still feels a little confusing.
Yeah.
We loved our trip at Disneyland. I definitely want to do that more often with my girls. They're still so little now. But for our listeners who don't even know probably what DVC stands for, can we talk a little bit about what that is?
Yeah. So DVC is Disney Vacation Club. And the short and sweet of it, it's basically Disney's version of a timeshare. And so really, and it is funny because a lot of like the West Coast audience, Disney puts less marketing into that. And even at the time, there's 15 Disney Vacation Club resorts, and one of them is the Grand Californian, which I'm assuming
Mm-hmm.
that's where you stayed when you went.
Yes.
But even at the time that Disney Vacation Club was selling the Grand California Resort, they couldn't sell it because they did such a poor job of educating like the West Coast audience. And I think there was a little bit of that burn of like timeshares in Mexico. And so the West Coast audience was like, nope, we want nothing to do with it. And then now they're releasing their newest resort that they're releasing is the Disneyland Towers. And those are like a hot commodity and they can't like keep up with the sales on them. So I think they've done a good job now of kind of like shifting that narrative. But really, this started in like the late 90s with Disney. And so basically, what it is it's the most flexible option when it comes to timeshare. So if you know anything about timeshare, a lot of timeshares you either buy like a week. So let's say you have week 52, and that's basically going to be Christmas week every year. And you buy the same location, same resort, same type of room. And so when Disney stepped into the timeshare industry, they didn't want that just because they knew that their audience and their guests wanted something much more flexible. And they're also dealing with families who are growing. And so that vacation style is probably going to shift every year for at least the next like 20 years of that kind of family lifespan. And so Disney really revolutionized the timeshare industry. And so they were actually the first ones to ever create a point system. So if you hear any timeshares now, like Marriott, Hilton, they all use a point system now. That was all modeled off after what Disney had created. And so with Disney, it's super flexible. You buy points, and your points you can use however you want to vacation. So it's almost like Monopoly money where you say, okay, I've got these points. What does that equal on the point chart? And you can buy whatever you want in terms of what you have points for. So you can use your points for as little as a one night stay. So like for us, we're here in Orlando, we're Disney Vacation Club members, but we don't do a traditional week stay at Disney. We just did, for example, we did a night in the Grand Floridian Grand Villa, which is a crazy beautiful. Megan, have you stayed there?
Yeah, that's where
Okay,
we stay when we
it's the
go.
most beautiful
It's
Disney
like
property.
I've tried to tell Sarah about it. It just blows your mind how beautiful it is.
It's just stunning. And so, like for us, our points are not going to stretch for a full week in that room. But we had Mother's Day, so I was like, all right, this is my Mother's Day. So we'll go there, we'll get that room, and it's just the three of us, but hey, it's going to be fun. And so that's the flexibility with the membership. You're not locked into a set time of year, a certain room, a certain resort. You get your points and you use them however you want. So if you want to stay for one night, or if you want to flex your points and maybe find a smaller room during a slower season, you can stay for as many nights as your points allow. And then to add to that flexibility, if you're a family that may not be going to Disney every year, there's the banking and borrowing. So if you don't use your points one year, you can bank them to the next year. So each set of points has a 2-year life. So if I'm not going in the year 2023, I have up till the year 2025 to use those points by. And then in the same breath, let's say I'm doing something really, really big in 2023, and I know next year I really don't have much of a vacation planned, you can borrow ahead. So in any one given time, you can utilize 3 years worth of points. So you really can kind of flex on how you want a vacation. But I think kind of the biggest win where people say, okay, Disney Vacation Club makes sense for us is if you start to run the math on it. And again, it kind of goes to that classic like timeshare where a lot of times with timeshares, you're buying into something where the maintenance is not maintaining. And so you're paying what most people know as like the maintenance or the annual dues, and you're paying more in that cost than what the value of the room is. And then those costs keep rising as the value of the room starts to drop over the years if they're not
Mhm.
improving that. Well, Disney, because they have such high standards, that's not the case. So they've kind of flipped that timeshare kind of value when it comes to Disney Vacation Club. So, for example, if you're staying at the Grand Floridian, and let's say you're doing a week stay at the Grand Floridian, you're probably paying about $6,000, $5,000 to $6,000 for that week. If you're buying a membership that equals to that week cost, it's probably going to be about a $25,000 membership. So when you start to do the math and you go, okay, that's a $5,000 vacation equal to a $25,000 Disney Vacation Club membership, in about 5 vacations, that membership pays for itself. And so for people who go to Disney, and once you kind of have that Disney bug, most people keep going to Disney. And so once you start adding up those costs, so many families go, okay, we're paying this over the span. Maybe it's not 5 years, maybe it's 10 years, but over that span, we're going to be paying this out. And the Grand Floridian membership, for example, goes into the year 2064. So for 5 years worth of vacation, you're getting 40 years of vacation out of it. And then each year after that, you're still paying the dues. But for example, the dues on that membership are going to be about $1,500. So your $1,500 cost
Wow.
is getting you a $5,000 vacation. And so every year you're going to maintain that value as you go. And so if you talk to members who joined in the 90s, they're like, this is the best thing we have ever done. Because they paid like next to nothing, and they're staying in the nicest rooms on Disney property for literally just their dues that year.
Wow. Wow. And this is so informative. Can you clarify? So, are you buying Vacation Club for one specific resort? Is that right? Because I think, Megan, you mentioned you own within Disneyland and Disney World.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Go for it.
we initially bought at Grand Californian. So you choose your home resort. And so my home resort is Grand Californian. And then we also wanted a home resort of Grand Floridian because I have all my family in Florida. And so your home resort gets you priority access to those rooms 11 months in advance. Every other property then becomes available to you at 7 months. Now, if those home members have already reserved their rooms, then you're sort of out of luck. So like Boardwalk fills up fast, Beach Club. Those are ones like, and Grand Floridian and Grand Californian both fill up also, which is why I was like, okay, well, we know we love these resorts. We know we want priority access to these resorts in particular. And I have flexibility to go try out some of these other resorts if I want to later. But because I know it's going to be harder for me to use my points at 7 months if I belong to a different resort, we just went ahead and bought at our favorite. And I think that's usually what they recommend is buy at your favorite resort, and then you can use your points pretty much anywhere if you're just playing the timing correctly. And Marissa, let's hear your clarification of what I just said, because I'm sure there's more.
100% right on. And I think when you look at kind of vacationers, we usually see 2 types of vacationers. And there's like our planner type who know where they want to stay. They don't want to compromise on like what resort they want to stay at. And so those are the planners that you go,
That's
okay.
Megan.
Yes, that's me.
And I remember even having these conversations of like, if you want to stay at the Grand Californian, you've got to buy at the Grand Californian. And there's a premium to that because it is a smaller resort. And so you'll find with all the resorts, they're going to differ among the years left on the membership. So you're going to find you can buy Disney Vacation Club, and all of this is going to be on the resale market unless you're buying directly from Disney. And then they have like one resort you can choose from. But if you're looking on the resale market, it gives you some more flexibility to figure out what makes the most sense. But they're going to go until anywhere from 20 years remaining on that deed to 50 years. So that's going to be kind of the first deciding factor is, do we want something more short-term, or are we looking for more of like a legacy that we want that 50-year deed on? And then the next thing is deciding, are we going to be picky about where we want to stay? And if we want to stay at specific places, buy at those places. Because if you love that place, it probably means a lot of people love it too. Versus we have other families who go, we don't care. All the deluxe properties are awesome. We might plan 6 months in advance. We might plan 3 months in advance, and we're good with whatever's available. Then if you're in that bucket, buy for the best value. And so you can kind of look at like the different economical factors and go, okay, Saratoga Springs at Walt Disney World might be a good option. It's lower on the dues, it's lower on the entry cost. It still has about 35 years of membership on it, so that might be the route to go.
Yeah. And so for people in California, right now the big option is Grand Californian, and the new option is the villas that just went up.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll talk more about those villas, I think, in a little bit. But I think just to break down the pros and the cons of DVC, just so that we have like a balanced view of it. I'd say like the number one thing that Marissa just mentioned is like for us, it was savings over time. Like I have a calculator I can send you, Sarah, and I'm happy to share with anybody, where we went through and we looked up what's rack rate, and rack rate means like what is Disney selling this room for through the hotel versus what is it for, what's the breakdown for a specific contract. And for us, it was Grand Californian, and how much does it cost? How many years are left? And how many points do I need in order to get that room? And so you can break it down and say, what's the savings if I do buy this? And for us, it was like 40 to 50% savings versus just like buying straight from Disney. So that was like the number one.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's huge.
It's huge. Yeah. I mean, we need the larger accommodations for my family. I know not everybody's like this, but we have poor sleepers in my family. We need extra space. I might be the bad sleeper. That's
how we are.
Yeah.
It's three of us. It's like everyone needs their own room.
Everyone needs their own room. Yeah, that's us. And so that was a huge one. But the other downside is like Grand Californian is so hard to get in, even just through the hotel side. Those or like larger suites, they go so fast that every time I was looking, even if I had the money to spend on that huge, room, it was already gone. And so the nice thing is that like 11 months in advance, and I am the planner. I'm such a planner. I know when I want to go, and I'm on there that day and I'm booking it for 11 months in advance. And then I have first dibs, and I wanted the large rooms, and I wanted first dibs. So those were like the huge things for us. And then again, though, I like the flexibility of the Grand Californian because I have those points, and there's so many other resorts in Orlando to try out that are through DVC. And so the flexibility of it was sort of fun for the Florida side. And then we have access to exclusive perks. I don't know if you want to talk more about this, Marissa, but there's differences in like the perks you receive if you're a direct member versus a resale member. But you do pay a cost for that. Like, so I don't know if you want to explain a little bit about that.
Yeah. And so basically, I worked for Disney Vacation Club directly through Disney for about 3 years. And then I switched over to the DVC resale side of things. And so when you're looking to buy as a consumer and you go, okay, what's going to be the best option for my family? That's kind of the two routes to look at. So when you're buying directly from Disney, you're going to get a totally unrestricted membership. And then you're going to get benefits and perks. So the perks are going to be, they offer sometimes these different like member parties here and there throughout the year. And then discounts. So whether that is like on shopping, usually it's going to be about 20% on your shopping, 10% on some of your sit down dining locations. And so that's kind of going to be the direct route. Now, for a lot of people, that's very important. And so like if that falls into like, hey, this is a priority for me, then that's the route to go. What we find for a lot of people when they look to make the decision to become a Disney Vacation Club member is their first step in deciding to be a member is the savings. So they're saying, okay, why am I doing this? Because I want to save on future vacations. And then they go, oh, and if I go resale, I'm saving 50% off what Disney charges. So that savings is even more. So if you're looking to give up a few of those perks and really kind of get to the bottom of that savings, that's where resale makes a lot of sense. And so I think, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to clarify what resale means.
Yeah.
Is that someone is selling their contract that they originally purchased?
Exactly. So basically, when you're buying directly from Disney, they're selling their live inventory. So if you were to go to Disney Vacation Club right now at Disneyland, they're going to probably tell you all about the new Disneyland Hotel and Alani, because those are their live properties right now on the West Coast. But you might say, hey, I really want the Grand Californian. I prefer that. I don't want to have some of the different transient taxes that have just come out, and I won't go into too much detail. But if you want a deep dive, you can go to dvcresalemarket.com. We have all the blogs on our website, and you can find the deep dives there. But especially with the Grand Cal, it's still probably the most beloved West Coast resort just because that ease of walking in and out of California Adventure and just kind of that grand location and all of that. And so if you were to go there, and go directly through Disney, you can't buy Grand Californian, or you're on a wait list that might be a 10 to 15-year wait list that never happens. And so for
I
a
heard
lot of
they
people,
closed
that's the
that wait
option.
list too.
They did. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no wait list left anymore, which is
No,
crazy.
they might reopen
Sorry.
it
Yeah,
here and
go.
there, but yeah,
Yeah, go
there's
ahead.
times where they
Yeah.
go, it's not even worth putting your name down because
Yeah.
that doesn't
You're never
exist.
going to
And
get it.
so that's where people look into the resale side of things because one, they can get access to resorts that they may not be able to get directly through Disney. But for example,
Okay.
like you could go to Disney now and ask for like Saratoga Springs, but you're going to be paying about $100 more per point to buy directly from Disney versus the resale market. And so if the core of kind of like your reason to buy Disney Vacation Club is savings, then usually the resale market is going to be that option. Or even in your case, Megan, where it's like, hey, I want the Grand Cal, then that's going to be your option there. And I
Mm-hmm.
think too, even when you look at like Disney Vacation Club as a whole, I think for families where it makes the most sense is if you kind of map out the next like 30 years of vacation and say, are we going to go 5 to 10 more times? And if the answer is yes, then Disney Vacation Club is probably the right move. If you're saying, hey, we might do like 3 trips in the next 30 years, then it's probably something where maybe just rent DVC points for that stay, because that's another really great option
Mm.
where you can rent somebody else's points. And so basically, what we take care of is the resale market is like a brokerage. So it's like a real estate transaction where somebody's selling their contract. And then we work as the broker. We're all former cast members. We all used to work for DVC. And then we take care of that side of the broker side for you. And then once you become a member, you still log into the Disney website. Everything's the same there. You just don't get some of the added perks. But if you're saying, hey, this might just be, let's say, a one trip to Alani thing, and maybe I don't want to pay rack rate the Disney prices, maybe I want to save on that. Well, you can also rent DVC points and you're still saving about 40 to 50% off Disney's rack rate for that one vacation.
Oh, wow. Okay, I'm really interested in this. So they would work with you to rent. It's basically like an Airbnb type of situation, like similar where you're renting someone's room.
Yeah, so you're basically renting their points. And so the beauty of
Okay.
that is it's not Airbnb where you're kind of like, hey, can you book this for me? And I'm going to stay in your location. We own dvcrentalstore.com. And so with that, you would just almost like you'd book your regular Disney stay. You would say, hey, I want to stay between July 10th through July 17th. And then we'll go find a member who has points that match your request. And then we'll book that stay for you, and then we send you the confirmation number, and then you just put that into whether that's your My Disney Experience app, or you just hold that reservation number for when you check in, and then it's just like you were a regular paying guest for that check-in.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's great to know. And then also when we're speaking to resale and these like long commitments of 30 or 50 years, is it fair to assume that if you change your mind, there is this resale market that you can then sell these large contracts that you've purchased?
Yeah, and so that's where it kind of becomes like when we were making that decision for our family, that's where it kind of became a no-brainer because
Hmm.
we were like, hey, we're using and going to Disney enough where this makes sense. But we bought it the Polynesian, and for when I bought it about 4 years ago to what I could sell it for now. So yeah, not that it's seen as something where you want to like turn around and flip and make a great profit on, but that's kind of the beauty of it is if you're buying Disney Vacation Club, if you've watched the prices of Disney tickets or Genie Plus or anything like that,
Hmm.
Disney prices are always increasing. They're not taking a dip no matter what we're seeing in any market. And so Disney Vacation Club really follows that same trend to where really the value keeps on rising. And so we could take our contract that we bought 4 years ago and sell it and make quite a bit more than what we paid for it. And most people can say the same about Disney Vacation Club. So the beauty of it is if you love it and can use it, that's really where you're going to get the most value out of it. But if for some reason you're not, that's okay because there's going to be a lot more families that are looking to buy that contract from you.
Wow, that's great to know.
Yeah, I was gonna pick your brain about this, Marissa, because I was just playing around on the DVC Resale Market website this morning, just in preparation for this, and just thinking. I always have add-on-itis, and I'm thinking, oh, maybe let's go see what the Grand Cal's going for right now. It's $100 more per point than when I purchased it 2 years ago, which is incredible.
Yeah.
So that means if I not that I want to sell it, but if I did sell it right now, I would make money.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
That's
funny because I was pulling up your contracts just to see like what price did you get for when you started, and yeah, that the pricing there, and it really is. Again, you can buy at any resort, but the ones that we see really start to increase in value is that supply and demand. It's similar to regular real estate. And so if you look at like Alani, for example, Alani has over 600 units allotted to it that have like Disney Vacation Club locations
Mhm.
versus the Grand Californian has 48. So when you talk about like supply and demand, there is far more demand than there is supply at the Grand Californian. And so that's why that one resort we see just increase so much every year.
That's crazy. That's amazing. What about when you go to like the ones that have very few, I guess, years left on them? Is it still a good buy at that point? Like I'm
Yeah,
thinking like
so
Key West or these are ones that have like 15 years left on them, right?
yeah, so Old Key West, Beach Club, Boardwalk, Vero Beach, those all expire in the year 2042. So we're getting right at that like 18-year mark on all of them. And so again, my rule of thumb when it comes to Disney Vacation Club is always, are you going to get at least like 5 years break even? And then are you going to get another X amount of years out of it for just the dues? And if you can justify that, then it still makes sense. And so for those resorts, you're still, because they have less years, they're going to be quite a lot cheaper. And so that's
Mm.
again a great option for families who say, we like this idea, but we don't really want to buy into a 50-year type thing. We know like for the next 10 to 15 years, this is going to be high priority. Then get cheaper points, take advantage of like the lowest cost on the market, and then you don't even need to worry about reselling it in the future. It's just going to expire.
Yeah, that makes sense. And those are super cheap.
They
I was
are,
looking at those
yeah.
this morning. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay. Um, can you tell us more about the member cruises for DVC? Because I don't think I realized that was a thing until I was researching for this episode. But that's interesting.
Yeah, so that's another one of the perks that you have to have some points bought directly from Disney to
Oh,
qualify for the
okay.
member cruises. But
Okay.
what they do is usually once, sometimes like twice a year, they do a member only cruise. So you still have to pay for the cruise. Sometimes they limit it. So sometimes they say you have to either use all points for the cruise or like at least have one person on points. Sometimes they allow you to just pay cash for the cruise. And so it's a really, really fun cruise. They charter it just for DVC members. You get special gifts in your room each night. So every night you check back into your room, you have like a whole little gift basket of fun surprises. And what I probably love the most, what they do on those cruises, is they bring out a ton of the Broadway stars. So whether it's like the original Mary Poppins, the original Tarzan, the original Nala, and they do like mini shows throughout the cruise, and you get to really kind of like know them on like that one-on-one basis. So for me that was like the big draw of a member cruise.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So yeah, I want to highlight one thing that we strategized with you about Marissa is that you can buy like the minimum amount of points direct from Disney to be
Mm-hmm.
considered a direct member. And for us at that point, that was 125 points. That was not nearly enough to cover what we needed for accommodation. So then we bought the rest of our contracts through DVC Resale. And so that's a way where you can have all those perks and get, for the majority of our points, a great cost savings on top of, buying the DVC contract, buying it resale. And so we have some of those perks. I wouldn't say like we use them a lot though. Here in California, there's not like, I think they're building a lounge or they're about to open a lounge, but most of the lounges you have access to are in Florida. And I think we use like the percentage off on dining and things like that here, but
Yeah.
that's probably about the only perk I've used,
Yeah, they
to be honest.
definitely, you'll see there's it's a pretty big like East Coast, and we'll see that shift a little bit now at Disneyland Tower. I think they just opened last month the member lounge at the Disneyland Tower. So that
Oh,
should
they
be
did.
open and ready for you. But yeah,
Yay.
they do a
Okay.
lot of like member events and things here at Walt Disney World. I think one of the biggest things that goes over like so well with the members is the Moonlight Magic. So you get
Yes.
free tickets into the park. You have to get those tickets and you have to get in a virtual queue, which is very hit and miss. But those are fun where you get, it's almost like Moonlight Magic or almost like extra magic hours, but you get to go in
Mm-hmm.
for free for a few hours in the evening. So those are like some really great perks. But if it's just kind of like the shopping or dining discounts, what a lot of people do if they're not wanting to like purchase the direct minimum. So the direct minimum now is 150 points, which
Mhm.
again, depending on kind of where that's important to you, it does make sense for a lot of families to kind of do that combo of both. But another way to kind of still get some of those perks would be getting like a Disney Visa, where you get a lot of the same like shopping and dining discounts without having to
Oh.
do like the direct purchase. So you can kind of play
Oh.
around with all those different things and see, hey, what's most important to us.
Oh, that's interesting. I've never heard of that before. That'd be a great way to have the same perks. Okay. Well, in the economy, the way that it is right now, is it still a good time to buy? Because everything seems to be going up price wise. And again, talking about how much of the difference I've seen across 2 years, is it still a good time to buy right now?
Yeah, so basically, if you kind of follow like the trend of real estate, Disney Vacation Club really kind of followed a similar trend, slightly different. So 2023 was very, very different for Disney Vacation Club than we've seen in like the traditional real estate market. I think with regular real estate in 2023, there's just been a plateau. There really hasn't been much of a drop. It's just kind of slowed down. And so
Mm.
what we saw in 2020 was this like vacation revenge where everyone was like, I just need to go on vacation, so I'm going to buy Disney Vacation Club because that means I know I'm going on vacation. And
That was you,
That's
Megan.
me.
you were part of the club.
Yep.
And that was an amazing time to buy because their sellers were much more willing, and we're talking more on the resale side of things, but sellers were willing to negotiate because they were saying, we don't know what like the future looks like for us in vacationing, so we're just going to let this go. And so you saw like a lot more like negotiating and deals during that time, but then inevitably the market just shot up and like
Mm.
went crazy. And in my opinion, probably like 2021, the end of that year into 2022, probably overinflated in terms of pricing. Like it probably got higher than really the market was supposed to go. And so
Mm.
2023, that's why we saw a drop. And so instead of like traditional real estate where it plateaued, there's a pretty massive drop so far this year. And so in all of our tracking from January on to about April, May, every month prices dropped. Average prices dropped and dropped and dropped and dropped. And then it flipped in May. So April, May, June, we've seen them climb back up. Not by much, only for about like 5% increase. But I think we've hit that bottom. So I think for people who wait in the wings and say, hey, when is it going to bottom out? I think we're right there. And so it's kind of like if you're looking for a really good deal, we're probably at that like tail end of the really good deals. To compare, when we were right in kind of the peak of like pricing, we struggled to keep like 100 contracts on the website. At the beginning of this year, we had about 800 contracts on the website. So that's the difference of inventory. And then right
Mm.
now, we're probably at about 400 contracts. And so, again, back to that supply and demand, right now, we're kind of in that equal playing field where you can still get a really good deal. But I think the biggest reason, like if you've been thinking about buying Disney Vacation Club and resale is the option for you, the reason to buy now versus any other time is right of first refusal. And again, not to do too much a deep dive, but basically, when you buy on the resale market, Disney is still the developer. So they have the right to buy any contract that they see come through. So every buyer that says, like if Megan says, hey, I want to buy this Grand Californian contract, we go under contract, we submit it to Disney. And then Disney says yes or no. And if Disney says no, they get to keep that contract for themselves. So if Megan negotiated a steal of a deal, Disney says, thank you very much. I want that deal. I'm going to take it, and then
Right.
she doesn't get it. And then we're back to the drawing board again. And so that really drives up prices. And it also makes it hard to get a deal because you know you've got to get it past the mouse. So right now, Disney hasn't bought back
Wow.
in right of first refusal. Out of 2,000 contracts we've sold this year, they've bought four. So they're not buying back.
Wow.
And so if you're trying to
Oh.
sneak in a good deal, this is the time. Disney works on a calendar of October to October. So where like most people, their new year comes in January, Disney's new year is coming in October. And so we'll probably see that shift back to them buying again. But so far from October to now, they've only bought four contracts.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
So the sweet spot is right now till October.
Yeah, exactly. No
That's
pressure.
Noted.
crazy. Yeah. I remember just like crossing my fingers with every contract I purchased. Like, is it going to get past right of first refusal? Is it going to get past? Because I think they were buying back more back then when I was purchasing. But also there
Significantly
wasn't
more.
this, yeah, there wasn't this inventory either. Like I was also shocked, not just the price of the Grand Californian, but the number of contracts available. Because
Yeah.
back when I was buying, there were no contracts. And I had to say, Marissa, the first one you find that's this use year, this month that I wanted to purchase, jump on it for us. Just
We
get
were
it
like
first.
pulling them before they hit the market. I was like, Megan, I found one.
Yeah. So she'd keep getting these amazing ones for me, but it was like, it was up. Sometimes I'd see it for 1 second on the website and to be gone. So
Wow.
yeah, that's amazing.
Can we clarify, just me being a total novice in this right now, can we clarify the points, how the points relate to the dollar? So are the points, is the dollar to the point different depending on where you're buying, or is there a set dollar? Like when you say it's 150 points
Yeah.
to buy in, what does that mean in dollars?
So if you're looking at like, let's say a regular hotel room at Disney, right? And so the typical hotel room at Disney that sleeps 4, maybe 5 people, if you're doing that stay for a week, it's probably going to be about 150 points. So in terms of like dollar
Oh,
value,
so
150 points equates to
5,000.
about $5,000 vacation.
Okay. I'm
And
thinking back to like when we stayed at Grand California, we were in a 1-bedroom suite.
Yes.
It was phenomenal. I loved it. It had great views. I thought we definitely want to stay here again. And I think it was about $5,000 for 4 or 5 nights. But that was spring break, so it was probably inflated a bit.
yeah, and so your 1 bedrooms are going to be a little bit higher in points.
Okay.
But still, you only stayed for a 5 nights versus like a 7 night stay. So you were probably at
Right.
about 200 points for that stay.
Okay. Okay, interesting. Okay, that's good to know.
And so the value
Okay.
of points, if I have 100 points and I own at the Polynesian, that 100 points is equal to the same 100 points at the Grand Californian, at the Grand Floridian, at Alani. So it's, you don't get like, if you're buying points at one resort, they don't equal more at another resort. So everybody's points have the same value to them. It's just going back to Megan's point of the reason you buy at a specific location is you get priority booking access. So the cost to buy the points will differ. And a lot of that depends on either the length of that contract. So you might be paying double for a 40-year deed, but that's because you're getting 20 more years, or it's at priority location. Like, for example, Beach Club at Walt Disney World is one of the most demanded locations. It only has 18 years worth of membership on it, but it's still selling as like one of the top 5 prices just because it's such a high demanded location. So it's going to typically cost more to stay there, and that kind of reflects in the pricing and the points.
Okay. Oh, that's super informative. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
But like, just to clarify further, like Old Key West, for instance, which has like no, like, I think it's got 15 years left, and but it's, it's running its course pretty quick here, versus Grand Cal, which is it 2060? Is that the end of our contract? So the price difference for those points is 100 versus 330.
Yep.
So you're going to, and that's like both things are in there. Like there's a longer contract you get with Grand Cal, and it's much more in demand. And so you do pay more money per point to stay there. But that also means it's not always a great use of your points to trade them to stay at other resorts unless they're the Polynesian or they're the Contemporary, the other high-end ones, which those cost more money also. So trading your points becomes a little bit more of like a strategy for like, where do I want to use my points, and is it a good use? It's probably not a good use for me to use my Grand California points to go stay at the Old Key West because the points cost was different. So there's some of that going on in the back of your mind too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say like one con of DVC is that it is super complex. And it took a lot, but it took a lot of time to figure out. I find that complexity a lot of fun. I love understanding how these things work and pulling that apart. And it was so much fun for me to learn. I still learn more about it, and I was like, oh yes, like there's an extra tidbit right there I didn't know. That makes me excited. I think some people are like me, and some people are like, this is just so much to understand. But I think talking to somebody like Marissa actually really helps you figure this out. And that's what it took for me and Eric, my husband, was like talking to Marissa, trying to figure out does this make sense or not. And my husband was firmly against ever buying a timeshare. He was like, no. And I just kept bringing it up and talking about the cost savings. And like now he's fully in. He's so happy we have those contracts. So I think it's a different type of timeshare. And I agree with what you said, Marissa. Like timeshares in general have a really bad rap. But this one in particular, because it appreciates over time, is like, great. So it's nice to have that option to sell it later and all of that stuff. So yeah. So before we go, do you want to tell us more about World of DVC? I know a lot about DVC Resale Market.
Yeah.
And I've heard a lot about the rental store, but there's other components to this company that could be of use to our listeners.
Yeah, and I think it kind of goes to your point of there's going to be many different types of like Disney vacationers. And there are going to be people who want like the DVC side who are committed to going to Disney all like year after year. And that's where DVC makes sense. But we found that there's also people that want to stay in DVC rooms for a savings and do a one-off stay. And then as we got like bigger, we said, there's people that want to like do Disney cruises or adventures by Disney and have like that concierge and travel agent experience. And so that's really how like World of DVC took off. And so kind of what is housed in World of DVC in our team is we've got the DVC resale side. So if you're looking to become a Disney Vacation Club member through the resale market, that's what that covers. And then we have the DVC rental store. And so whether you're a member who wants to rent out their points, if you're not using them 1 year, or if you're saying, hey, I want to stay in the deluxe rooms at the best price, that's the best way to do it if you're not a member. And so it's, again, like
Marissa, can I ask you a question about that? So looking back, on our trip with Megan, I just booked my trip through the Grand California.
Yeah.
Would I have saved money if I would have connected with this what you're mentioning right here, where we can just rent the points?
Yep. So basically, if you went in spring break, I'll pull up the numbers really quickly here. But if you went in spring break and you did a 1-bedroom, right?
Yes.
So that would have
bedroom.
And you did how many nights?
I think it was 4 nights.
Okay.
And I can't remember exactly, but it was somewhere between $5,000 and $6,000. But I do think that included the actual park tickets.
Okay. So
there were 4 of us, or 3 of us, because one was little.
And did you have like the full kitchen and all that?
No.
Okay.
It was a kitchenette.
Okay. So that stay, if you would have booked through the rental store, would have been about $2,000.
What? Oh my God. Wait, let me make sure my husband's not listening. Oh my, less than half price?
Yeah.
What would have been the reality of that being available, getting those dates and that room?
So it goes back to that planning. So if it was more last minute, it would have been hard to do. But if you were planning between that like 7 to 11 month window, there's going to be a pretty good probability that you'd be able to book that room.
Oh my goodness. So for anyone who kind of zoned out on the timeshare option because they don't think that's for them, this option is for anyone and everyone.
And it's, I mean, even if you're a DVC member, and Megan, you know this, you never have enough points. And so I'm using the DVC rental store all the time because I'm like, can I get this vacation here? So it's great if you're kind of in between as well and need a few more points for that stay.
Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you for explaining that a bit more.
Yeah. So yeah, that's going to be the DVC rental store side. And so that falls into World of DVC. And then we also have a financing side. So if you are looking to finance your Disney Vacation Club through the resale market, we have Monera Financial. And then our latest kind of additions to the family of World of DVC have been our travel agency, which is Be Our Guest Vacations. And so that's been around for about 10 years. They're a platinum Disney travel agency. But again, if you're doing a Disney trip and you really want everything planned for you, it's a free service. They get all kinds of perks and benefits for you. So that team is amazing. One of my dear friends, she just came on to be the president of Be Our Guest Vacation. And she might be your next interview. She comes from the World of Home Shopping Network. She was a host for many, many years.
Yes, we
should have her on. Yes.
I know. I'm like, I put her on everything I can with our marketing stuff because I'm like, shine.
Yeah.
But she's amazing.
Oh, you're such a great friend.
And that team's awesome there. And so that's another side of, again, just kind of we want to take care of that full Disney vacation from start to finish. And then our newest kind of baby in the world of DVC is a new tool called Unlock Magic. And so Unlock Magic is an app you can find in the App Store. And so you can join in unlockmagic.com. And basically, if you've been to Disney recently and tried to get like a dining reservation, you know how hard those are. And so this is a dining alert system. So where you basically can say, hey, I'm looking for this date, this location, and then it does all the work for you. So it'll send you a text once it finds it. You don't have to search the app and constantly try to find that room. There's also discounted tickets there. So whether you're going to Walt Disney World or Universal, they're like the lowest price you can get tickets on. So that's another little community there as well.
That's great.
I wanted to pick your brain a little bit. So I was watching one of your videos, the DVC rental store, or I think it's World of DVC videos, and they started talking about these celebration homes that you can rent with your points.
So that is another, so we actually, if you're a DVC member, we've launched a new program called Disney Vacation Club Swaps. And so when you're a Disney Vacation Club member, you have options to use your points for things like cruises or like through the traditional timeshare exchange. But it's really, really poor use of points. You're going to use more points than it's worth to pay cash. So kind of running the numbers and math, it really doesn't make sense. So we were like, well, why don't we do something where it makes sense? And so for DVC members, they can swap their points, whether that's for cruises or sandals or beaches, or if you want to go on a Royal Caribbean cruise instead of a Disney cruise. So there's so many more ways you can use your points. But through that, we found that a lot of families, or even like corporate events, they'll come to Disney, but they want to rent a full house, especially here in Orlando. And so our latest project has been Incredible Vacation Homes. So we have a whole collection of incredibly themed. Most of them have like Universal or Disney theming. They're gorgeous. Most of them are like 10-bedroom homes, and they're right one exit away from Walt Disney World. So if you're going with a larger family or kind of want that like home away from home feel when you're at Disney World, it's a really, really great option. And it's not the same as staying on Disney property by any means, but if you're looking for like a really kind of luxury style house for a fraction of the cost, it's a really, really cool way to stay.
Yeah, thank you for that explanation, Marissa. We appreciate that. Are there any other takeaways that we should take with us today about the DVC rental store or about World of DVC? Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, the cool thing is with all of our team, most of us are former Disney cast members. And so I think the biggest thing you can do, whether it's planning your next vacation as like a one-off trip or becoming a DVC member, is just take some time and educate yourself. And so if you have the time to do it, our team is amazing at that. And if you have a million questions, all of our websites have a chat function. Hop on there. They'll answer any questions that you have. We're open all 7 days a week, and our staff is just fantastic. And they literally know Disney inside and out. So that would be my biggest kind of like takeaway from all of this is do your education, take that time. And for some people, it might be just using a travel agent. For some people, it might be renting points. And then other people may say, okay, I need to become a DVC member. So it's kind of educating yourself through that. And our team is fantastic with that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
And just to remind everybody, you can catch Marissa at World of DVC, the DVC Resale Market, DVC Rental Store, Be Our Guest Vacations, Unlocked Magic, and her beauty business, which is Lane & Co. Shop. So thank you, Marissa, for coming today and explaining all of this to us. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you. I learned so much. This was incredible. Now I'm going to have to decide, okay, do we want to do DVC? Do we want to just rent the points?
You're going to rent the points
great.
one time and then you'll come back and say, okay, I need to be a member.
Probably.
Yeah, it's a good way to try it.
Oh, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you, ladies. It was super fun chatting with you.
Please rate, like, and subscribe, and catch us on Instagram and Facebook at Platinum Perspective Podcast. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.